Boy, I got everybody's attention, didn't I? Good evening and welcome to the April 5th, 2016 Board of Education meeting. We've been in an executive session since 5:30 discussing personnel matters. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any participation in government students here? Okay, I see a few hands go up. Your requirement is to stay to 9 o'clock. If the meeting is still going on at 9, we'll take a break. You'll need to come up and there'll be sign-out sheets up here. And if you have any forms that need to be signed by a board member, we'll do that for you. If the meeting gets over sooner than that, then come up at that time. Introductions?
Christine Back.
Lynn Lenhart.
Dave Hurst.
Jody Monroe.
Matt Downey.
Charmaine Widgesinger.
Joanne Cunningham.
Diane Stever.
Judy Kehoe.
And Mike Cooper had a previous work engagement and is not able to be here this evening. First is the approval of the minutes of the March 16, 2016 regular board meeting.
So moved. Second.
That's a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? That item carries. The minutes of the March 23rd executive session.
So moved. Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? That item carries. Item number 3, the Student Senate report. Do we have a representative from the Student Senate this evening?
Hi, my name is Ellie Bell. I'm here on behalf of Student Senate this evening. Over the past few weeks, we've been working on planning a leadership conference for next year. All the suburban council schools rotate in hosting it, and next year is Bethlehem. So we decided to host this conference at the Capitol, and we're going to be visiting as a Senate on Friday to try to get some ideas of what activities we can do while we're there. This will be hosted in October of next year. We're also working on figuring out the logistics of Mr. Bethlehem. We have a few dates that we're deciding on, and finally we're working on planning spring dodgeball.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Ellie?
Do you have any update on the Relay for Life event? How's that going?
Yeah, we decided to postpone any community event until next year, being that we didn't feel that we could host a successful event in the amount of time that we had. So we'll probably start planning community event for next year at some time at the end of this year, so next year we're prepared.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Thank you very much. Next, the interim superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Downey. We have a lot of students here this evening. I thought it was appropriate that we recognize a lot of our academic teams and success tonight as we're going to be presenting the instructional program. So I'm going to go over to the podium. Okay, so we have a lot of students here this evening, and we're going to start with our Odyssey of the Mind teams. And before we begin, I do want to say that because we have so many students who are recognizing, we're going to run out of our Eagle pins, which are famous. But all of our Odyssey of the Mind teams will actually get an Eagle pin, and our other teams, we will make sure we get you an Eagle pin in the coming weeks. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to have Mr. Klugman, our middle school principal, Mr. Kasanzak, our principal from Hamagrel, and Ms. Kloss from Ellesmere to come up. They're going to help announce the teams. And I believe this year we had a record number of teams. And before we recognize our students, I'd like to really thank Betsy Gumastop. I saw her. Betsy, thanks, yeah. She's really a tremendous help in coordinating the program, helping myself, and I know really acts as a great resource for all of the coaches, so I really want to thank her for all the support in getting the teams where they need to be. So I'm going to first ask Mr. Kay to announce one of his teams. And as we call your names, if you could please come over to this side because we have so many, and we're going to take some photos of the teams as you're being called. So.
Thank you very much, Ms. Monroe. And it's very nice to see all of our
middle school and high school students here with your continued success that we saw at the elementary level. So again, congratulations to all of you on a job well done, and it's good to see you're keeping up the good work. I would like to, first of all, recognize our Hammergrill Elementary primary team. It's students in second grade. They don't have scores for the K through 2 teams, but I know our students did a wonderful job, and would like to first congratulate the coach, Ms. Becky Biter. And student participants, come on up. Ezra Cotton, Amelia Biter, Jackie Miller, Sierra Obernesser, and Oliver Reichman. Come on up. Our second team, they participated in the Problem 1 Division 1. They received a second place ribbon. Congratulations and thanks to our coach, D.H. Chung and Mika Lowe. Thank you very much for your efforts. And our students in second place, Yuna Chung, Sophia Genovese, Levi Lowe Allinger, and Miriam Nestor. Come on up. And our third team from Hammergrill, participating in the Problem 2 Division 1, receiving second place honors. We'd like to thank our coaches, Ann Blanchard and Amy Davenport. And the students, come on up please. Emma Blanchard, Paige Davenport, Sophia Imbriaco, Jack Leonard, and Graham Nathaniels. Come on up.
Okay, next we'll recognize our Ellesmere students. If Ms. Kloss wants to come up.
Our team did a terrific job this year, placing third. It's comprised of a third and fourth graders, and it's a new team, so we are very proud of the job that they did this year. So congratulations to Coach Melissa Gold. Catherine Fitzgerald, Maxwell Gold. You can come on up. Abby Jones, Una Co-Knight, Anthony Losi, Maeve McCarthy, and Ben Sorrentino.
So for those that may not know the structure of Odyssey of the Mind, there are basically 5 problems, and teams select which problem they get to solve. When I asked this year some of our coaches how many teams they were going to have, I assumed we'd have maybe 1, maybe 2, because that's about what we've had in the past. This year we had 5 teams, all qualify to go to states, and all 5 of those teams chose a different problem. So we joked that we had everybody surrounded because there was a Bethlehem team doing every problem at the Odyssey this year. So congratulations to all of our teams that all did really, really well at states. So if I could call up the Odyssey of the Mind team coached by Lisa Baum, who completed Problem 4 in Division 2. Please join us up on the front. Anders Baum, Kirsten Baum, Will Convertino, Leighton Emery, Jack Vincelette, and again, Coach Lisa Baum. Okay, we're going to bring all 5 teams up, and I think I might have skipped over one of the teams that was up there. Did we go back? All right, great. So the team from Problem 3, Division 2, I'd like joining coaches Isabel Bleeker, Allison Reichman, and David Van Leuven. Sage, go ahead. Congratulations to the coaches. I got a special shout out to the coaches after I'm done with all the teams. Sage Obernesser, Henry Reichman, Caitlin Roddy, Ethan Rosenblum, Rebecca Scheingold, Emma Van Leuven, and Juliet Van Leuven. And our team that completed Problem 1 in Division 2, we have Coach Leslie Perrin with students Lillian Biter, Charles Blanchard, Lexi Gibson, Tyler Novak, and Claire Peretta. Please join me in welcoming the team that completed Problem 2 in Division 2, coached by Coach Carol Roeder. And before I bring the team up, you'll notice there's a big sort of gold medal in the middle of their slide. That team has won the opportunity. Not only were they first place in the entire state of New York, but now they get to go on to Iowa. Yes, that's right, Iowa. Say it with me now. And they get to go to Worlds. So please join me in welcoming Faith Adamczyk, Bridget Connolly, Megan Fallon, Morgan Leonard, Aiden McNay, Taylor Roddy, and Jillian Roeder. Last but certainly not least, our Problem 5 Division 2 representatives from the Capital Region and from Bethlehem. They, again, did very well in our local going on to states. Please join me in welcoming Coach Heather Mung and her students. Eliza Cotton, Megan Dellenbach, Abe Kaufman, Nathaniel Koplik, Dewey Mung, Claire Smith, and Daniel Joe. And if you would, one more round of applause. Before we do that, I just want to recognize all of our coaches. Like Betsy, they are all volunteers, so they don't get paid to do this. And as if you followed these teams, it is hours and weeks and months worth of work. They put in a tremendous amount of time. But I think the best of what they do, believe it or not, at times is get out of the way, and they really give the kids a lot of empowerment and independence in choosing how their skits are going to go. The kids do everything from start to finish. So a special thank you to all of our coaches, both from our Hammer-Grail, Ellesmere teams, and also from our middle school teams. Thank you.
Again, congratulations to all of our students, and echo Mr. Klugman's comments, and thank you to all the coaches and volunteers. I know it's a tremendous amount of time that goes into all of the activities. We have a couple. We have some Just give everyone a couple seconds for some photos here. You go to the street. Okay, the next group of students that we'd like to recognize is the Bethlehem Central High School History Bowl team. They competed and won the New York City Regional History Bowl that was held recently in Queens. And if the students are here, Will Anderson, Mike Bartlett, Eric Wolfsberg, and Dan Connolly, if you could come on up. They went undefeated during the day-long competition and defeated Great Neck South High School in the championship game. In the individual competition, Eric Wolfsberg won the varsity History B and Will Anderson came in third place. The team has qualified for the national tournament, which will be held in Washington, D.C. later in the spring. So congratulations to these students. Next, I'd like to ask Melanie Painter to come up to recognize some of our art students.
Hi, thank you. I was honored this past Sunday by going to the Norman Rockwell Museum and seeing not only some iconic pieces of artwork, but seeing our students' work alongside them. So I want to thank all of the students for the work that they created. And these are interpretations that they've created based on the 4 freedoms. These are the freedoms that they felt were most important today in 16. So for our students, I'm going to welcome up our students that participated in the exhibit, and I also do have your artwork for you, and I also have a certificate of honor for your participation in this event. So I'd like to welcome up Lillian Auger, Ashley Gillies, Grace Ludington, Julia Marcotulio, Grace Meredith, Sophia Potenciano, and Eddie Stevens.
And next, I'd like to ask Mr. O'Reilly to come on up and announce some of our winners for the Science Academic Bowl.
So, hello, my name's Paul O'Reilly. I coach the Science Bowl team, the Masterminds team, and I also help out with the Science Olympiad, and it's been a pleasure this year. I love a good comeback. Like, for example, if you were watching the NCAAs, did you watch Syracuse play Kansas? That was a fun game, right, to watch. But it wasn't the best comeback I saw all year. Actually, that was at the National Science Bowl at the regional finals. Our team went undefeated all day until the last match, where they fell behind by 60 points. Now, let me just put this into perspective. I've seen final matches where both teams combined scored 60 points the whole game. So they were really in a hole. But they didn't give up. They trusted themselves and they trusted their teammates, and they didn't panic. And ultimately, at the end of that game, when the final buzzer rang, they were up by 40 points. So my March is fun. I really do enjoy March because of Science Bowl and, of course, the NCAA. But I also, my inspiration to do this and to do these clubs really isn't the competition. It's really the community that's formed from the students. We have about 60 students involved in the 3 clubs. And it's wonderful to see the upperclassmen passing on the information and the traditions. They're obviously really good at it because we keep on winning. And we have an exceptional group of upperclassmen this year in both Science Olympiad and Masterminds and Science Bowl. And I wanted to thank them because their presence will be felt long after they go off to college, their positive presence. So let me introduce to you who's here from the Science Bowl team. I'm not really sure. Is Kaibo here? Kaibo Q. Bowen Chen, I don't think he's here. Evan Davis. Elliot Scheckman. Wenyuan Ho. Oh, good. Oh, you are here, Kaibo. Now, one thing I wanted to add was Wenyuan actually goes down and helps to coach the Science Bowl team in the middle school, which is wonderful, giving back. But congratulations. You guys snuck it at the end.
Congratulations. Yes, we'll definitely want to go to
Oh, yes, they win the right to go to Washington to play in the National Science Bowl in April.
Mr. Mowry, do you want to come on up?
Hey, for the Science Olympiad, I'm very proud of the team this year. They met and exceeded all my expectations. We placed 3rd at the regional, earning the last spot to go to states. At states, facing the top 54 teams across New York State, we finished 16th. We placed as a team 1st place in one event, 2nd place across the state in 3 events, 4th place in one event, and 7th in another event. So they did a really great job. All right, so I'm going to announce their names. Steen Kubenstop. Again, I'm not sure who's here. Nicholas Castro. Evan Davis. Iris Zhao. Eric Bistrup. Brandon Zhao. Linda Lee. Hani Ahmed. Roger Zhao. Roger Howe. Bowen Chen. Eric Chang. Michael Lee. Samantha Murundi. John Chu, and Srindi Chari. Sorry, there's one name that was left off that was not on the list. Li Chenzu.
Again, I'd like to thank all the students for representing the district so well, and thank all the coaches and volunteers who give a lot of their time for the students to be as successful as they are. So congratulations to everyone, and thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Monroe. That was a great job, and congratulations to all the students and the volunteers and teachers that work with them. It really exemplifies what Bethlehem is about, excellence in our academic program, and it couldn't be more appropriate tonight because that's what we're going to be covering as part of our budget presentation. So if anybody would like to fill in the middle seats now from the sides, if you'd like, there's plenty of empty seats, or if anybody wants to move from the back up forward, that'd be great. Yep. Okay, our next agenda item is Board of Education report. I'd like to start out by saying thank you to our local legislators, Senator Breslin and Assemblywoman Pat Fahey. Through their process and the budget process this year, they fully restored the GEA, which is a gap elimination adjustment. For anybody who's been to our meetings in the past knows that that was a significant hit financially against school districts, and specifically against Bethlehem. Since they implemented that, I believe we've lost $19 million in state revenue. This year, through the negotiated budget process, we have been made whole in that. They have eliminated the gap elimination adjustment, so we'll be getting a full restoration of that money. Ms. Kehoe will be explaining that as we go through our presentations tonight. But I wanted to publicly thank, on behalf of the board and the community, our our legislators for advocating for the restoration of that money. Anyone else? Sorry.
We're all reaching for our water.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've met since the concert, the spring concert, have we? Anyway.
The district-wide concert.
Yeah, the district-wide, the band
band
festival. But just wanted to say yet again, wonderful, wonderful program. It's absolutely a thrill to go to. I mean, I just can't get over the talent. They had the fifth graders. You see the talent sort of emerging, and then you see the contrast to what they look like when they're in high school. And I really do think this is one of the showcase signature things about Bethlehem. And to see even the crowd, the packed crowd of parents who are there, and it's just unbelievable. So really nice job by the music department. I'm always so impressed, and yet again, this year it was spectacular. I also did go to the Norman Rockwell Museum this weekend for the ninth grader art show, and it was really amazing. I just want to say thank you to Melanie Painter, because she is a real leader in putting that together. And just one comment about it that I think is also something that makes Bethlehem somewhat unique is the fact that here we took an art program and integrated it into really almost a history kind of lesson, where you had using the four freedoms, and this year being an anniversary of sorts, the anniversary of FDR's speech in which he talked about the four freedoms, and then asking students to not just communicate using art as the mechanism, their perception of the four freedoms, but instead asking them to illustrate something that is a freedom, not necessarily one of the four freedoms, but one of the freedoms that they view as being important in their lives. So taking something that's a historical event and then connecting it to an art lesson where the art depictions of what students today view as important freedoms to them were so just awesome. I mean, you had, freedom to love who you want, freedom to express yourself in any way you want, freedom to really express who you are. So a lot of really inspirational depictions of what it means to be free in 2016 when you're a ninth grader. And just really amazing. And Melanie, you did a terrific job. And also, really the other art programs from across the Capital District, Guilderland in particular, a real leader in establishing that. But I just thought, as we're talking about curriculum, what a great showcasing of not just an art lesson, but then the integration of it into a history lesson, and just marvelous. Really something. So I just wanted to say that, and just want to do a shout out for all the wonderful kids that we just saw. Those Odyssey teams are just amazing, and the energy and time and effort and enthusiasm that goes into those, just amazing, and really appreciate all the student achievement with the successful teams that were recognized. And I especially appreciate some of the kids who had to do like a wardrobe change in the back and put on the shirt for the new team that they were being recognized for. So lots of really good talent here tonight. A privilege really to be part of this.
Thank you, Joanne. Anyone else?
Well, I agree about the district band festival. The festivals over the years just have been wonderful. Just I think even for the students themselves, number one, working with the visiting conductor, who really takes it so seriously with the students, but also for them to see like hope in the future, or even for parents to see that, those strange sounds that come out of the instruments in 5th grade actually do end up sounding good by the time they're in high school. So I think, I think that is great. Also, at the same time was Grease. I don't know whether it was weekend before or after, whatever, but that again was a wonderful musical performance and a lot of talent there. We have a lot of talent in this district, which is illustrated in many ways. And I was wondering, Melanie, is it possible, to have pictures on the website of those pieces of artwork? Because I know, sitting here, I didn't even get to see them, and I wondered if they could be on display in the high school too, maybe in an art case, because I think it would be nice for other people to be able to see their work also. I think it's great that they, had the exhibition there. Very nice that your daughter was one of them, and I just think that it's nice to be able to see it, and I would like to.
Christine? No?
I went to the Empty Bowls fundraiser. It's a nice event where pottery students make and then sell bowls and donate the money for hunger causes. So that was, again, a great connection between curriculum and charity and giving back to the community. And I also know a lot of the spring teams have begun their season, so good luck to all the athletes as they begin their contests.
Diane, anything? No? Right, great. Thank you. Moving on, our next is our budget presentation, and we'll start with an overview by Ms. Keough. And it's actually good news, so we like that.
It's fitting that it's such a celebratory mood this evening, and as you announced, there's been a certain joy in the world of finance with the restoration of the GEA. That has certainly been long awaited, and it makes a phenomenal difference in terms of what we can do in supporting the program. The impact to the district is $1,366,000 in additional money, all in 1 year, with the full restoration of that aid, which is just terrific. We also were pleased to see when the governor's aid runs came out that there was an uptick in the building aid. Our capital outlay money has hit on there as well. So we were able to increase that, and then they had also recalculated primarily our BOCES aid so that we were able to adjust that line item up. So all in total, another $1.6 million that can go towards the revenues for the program. Can
I
yes.
just ask a quick question? You had mentioned the word made whole, and I know you had mentioned that too. I mean, we're being made whole this year by not having that money taken back from us,
Yeah.
but we're not getting all the money that was taken back from us for the last 5 years.
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to, so we're really we're being made whole for this year, coming year, but not.
Right.
for
No,
the
that,
past.
as Matt Downey noted, we've lost a lot of money over the
Like
years
19
with those reductions, and it's nice to not have to face that any longer. We all tightened our belts for many years, and there were a lot of painful reductions that were made because of that. So we're in a better place now with that.
That's for sure.
The added benefit with the building aid adjustment is that we were also able to recalculate the maximum allowable tax levy. Throughout all of our presentations, we had noted that we were looking at a 1.45%, which is not a bad increase, but when we were getting the additional building aid, that allowed us to lower the capital exemption amount, which is one of several factors within that calculation. So now the revised maximum allowable levy is 1.34%. So that would yield, if the board adopts the budget with that level, $848,000 on the budget. The added good news with that 1.34 is, remember, we have to calculate the rates. That's something that we will end up doing as we get to August, early August, when the towns finish their assessment updates. But based on some of the preliminary information, where they still haven't put all the values onto the roll, the initial estimate is we're going to be looking at below 1% for the actual increase in the rates. So that certainly is a positive element for the budget. And it's nice that we can keep the tax rate a little bit lower this year, particularly where we get this inflow of cash from the GEA restoration. We are not likely to see that level of increase in our future years' budgets. There's always discussion about adjusting the foundation aid formulas and that we might see some of that money coming to us in the future, but we've been flat for at least 7 or 8 years now. So stay tuned. That'll be what we're talking about next year probably on the state aid numbers. Okay. This is our adjusted revenues. As of this new information, I italicized the state aid number, so you can see that we're up to $27.8 million. If the budget is adopted with the levy at the maximum allowable levy, that will bring us up to $96,876,000 to support the programs. Our baseline budget, again, was just our budget, what the expenditures would look like if we did not change anything within the program. We have been looking at a series of requested additions throughout our weeks here. So we've summarized them on these 2 slides. Again, this covers throughout the programs within the district. I'm not going to go into the details of what was requested. That was covered on each of the nights. But in total, for the programs to date, we're just under $977,000 in requested additions to be considered by the board. At the last meeting, the board adopted the legal ad and also had approved the placing of a proposition on the May vote for bus replacements for 15 buses at a cost not to exceed $1.413 million. So that will be one of the elements on the ballot. We also have included within the budget Phase 4 of the capital outlay work for the work on the pool here at the high school. This has been a nice way to get some building aid without having to go through the more formal procedures that you normally would for a capital project. So we're hoping to see that continue. Okay. And at this point, that's the quick recap. If you have no other questions on that, I'll turn it over to Dave Hurst, who will cover the instructional programs.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out for the instructional program presentation. As you can imagine, this was quite a collaborative effort between the instructional leadership team, principals, supervisors. It takes a great amount of time and energy to put together a proposed budget, and I thank all of them for their help and support in putting this together, and further for their help and support in being here tonight to support the presentation. So I'm happy to announce that for the 2nd consecutive year, we are looking at adding things to the budget. If you recall, last year there were about $900,000 worth of adds to the instructional program. And this year, while we're not quite as ambitious, we are looking to add approximately $500,000 to the instructional program for next year. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of how the money is sort of divvied up, and we'll look at it sort of through different lenses. The first is just an overall view of what the instructional department program looks like. You can see that last year we budgeted about $30.8 million for the instructional program, and this year the uptick is to about $31.4 million, so about a $600,000 increase, which is about 1.96%. The one number that might stand out the most to you there in terms of increase is the career and technical ed, which increased about $70,000, and that's due to, if you recall, last year we added an additional career and tech ed position to the budget. So that's where that increase comes in. If we break it down by type, again, you can see the bulk of the budget is on salaries. These are our contractual obligations. We have an increase just roughly over $600,000 budget year to budget year. Overall, again, we're looking at the $30.8 million rising to the $31.4 million. Same numbers, just looking at it in different fashion. Just to sort of highlight what some of these other categories are. Equipment refers to art equipment, music equipment, tech ed equipment, things of that nature. Other operating costs and supplies might be supplies that are needed for professional development, some classroom supplies. Each building gets an allocation, things of that nature. BOCES services would cover things like library services, the testing support that they provide for 3 through 8 testing and Regents testing with their scanning services and printing services, and then some professional development opportunities through them as well. So if we take a closer look at the salary and position, you can see that we have 411 employees in all, which is still, about 8 years ago, we were closer to the 500 employee range. So we're still, 85 or so employees down from where we were about 8 years ago. And our salary line, you can see there, those numbers are the same numbers that were reflected on the previous slide. This year's budget, we're looking at $28.4 million, whereas next year, roughly $29 million, about a $600,000 increase there. The numbers of employees do include both supervisory and support staff. So for instance, the principal line, you see 26 there, 12 of those are principals, 14 of those are secretaries or clerical staff, just to give you an idea that those numbers do encompass both categories. And if we break it down slightly further and take a look at by level, you can see this represents roughly 331 employees, which again, about 8 years ago, we were at about the 400 range, so still down about 70 employees overall. You can see that the budget-to-budget increase is only about $500,000, going from $22.5 million to roughly $23 million. Just to highlight some of the pieces there that aren't necessarily clear. Miscellaneous, that includes like intramurals, extramurals, stipends for team leaders, homework club. You do see a fairly large decrease there of about $23,000, and that's due to the elimination of the middle school enrichment program. That's where that decrease is coming in. You might also notice that there seems to be in K-3 about a $400,000 decrease, whereas in 4 to 6 there's a substantial increase. If you recall, last year we added 7 positions for RTI, instructional support. So those are absorbed in the 4 to 6 number. And we've also been doing some cleaning up of our finance system. Some people, the way they were tagged in the system, they're still tagged 4-6, even though they were now teaching K-3 or vice versa. So some of that, it was just movement in cleaning up our financial system. So really the bulk of the change there was the increase in 7 new positions for the instructional support. Charmaine?
Did you say there's a reduction or elimination of a middle school enrichment program?
The summer enrichment program.
Oh, the summer
enrichment
okay,
program.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah. So now I'll talk about the things that we're looking to either reduce or add, and I'm happy to say that we're only looking to reduce 2 items. And one of these was discussed back in the January meeting. Mr. Landry did a presentation on the IB program and the costs that would be involved with that. So we are recommending that we remove the IB program funding. And again, some of the things that are captured within that funding are the costs to apply for the program coordinator costs, software costs, things of that nature that total about $100,000. And then in the middle school, the recommendation is to reduce the 6th grade team so that we would have 3 full teams as opposed to 3 full teams and then sort of one section hanging off by itself that's attached to that Mohawk team. And I'm going to show you the enrollment numbers as sort of why the justification for that. So first I'll start with our elementary enrollment. Based on enrollment, we're not recommending any increases or decreases to direct classroom teacher assignment. You can see that the numbers from last year to this year, it's relatively flat. Grades 3 and 4 dropped, and maybe grade 1, but overall 61 students across 5 buildings and 6 grade levels, is essentially a flat enrollment. You can see that the ratio went down 2/10 basically. So very little change at the enrollment in the elementary level. The secondary level, though, we do see at the middle school, grade 6 down another 19 students, and grade 8 down 45 students. So in looking at those numbers, again, by reducing the 6th grade, it would bring it down to 15 sections, which would average out to about 22 students per section, whereas the 7th grade will continue to have 22 students per section, and the 8th grade next year would have 21 students per section. So, keeping the numbers relatively in balance, and looking at the schedule, the choice was either to eliminate one of the 6th grade sections or one of the 8th grade, thinking that if you were just to move that level forward. But from a scheduling perspective, it actually worked out much better for the 6th grade to be reduced and not the 8th grade. The high school enrollment, again, you can see that that's, the senior level down 31 students is the highest there, but again, that's very little change when you're looking at a building of that size this size per grade level. So no really staffing implications there in terms of reductions. So now, sort of the more exciting part, not talking about reductions, but talking about things that we can finally start to add back into our educational program. So as I said, between last year and this year, we were able to look at about $1.5 million in increases, which is very exciting considering if you look at the prior history before the last 2 years, we were certainly decreasing or reducing much more than that. So we've broken it down into tiers, and again, this was through discussions with the instructional leadership and the supervisors, principals, to sort of try to prioritize where we can best utilize the money. So what we're calling sort of tier 1 additions, and these are things that we would have on our, the highest of our priorities, would be an increase in substitute teacher pay. Currently, we pay $95 per day, and we're looking to increase that to $105 to be a little bit more competitive within the region. Along the same lines, an increase in rate for our tutors and home instruction, so that would bring that up to $27 for outside tutors and $32 for tutors that are members of the BCTA. An increase in noon hours aid support at Glenmont. We currently are looking at numbers for next year, are going to need an additional staffing there. An increase in ELA, math, science, social studies, and PE. And this is due to a removal of the .2 teaching responsibility from the 4 core subject supervisors and from the athletic director. And really, this will help us do a few things. One, it'll allow the supervisors to get into the elementary buildings on a more frequent basis to work with the teachers and help them with some content-specific support. And it will also enable them to get into the elementary buildings to assist with some of the APPR requirements as we move forward. Next year, we're going to be required to have independent evaluators, and this will help us meet that mandate as well. But I think more important, though, is the ability for them to be in the classroom more often, providing support in the curricular areas. And also an increase in a new hour aid for primary lunches. We are proposing next year to increase the K through 2 lunch/recess time at the elementary level. And in order to accomplish that, obviously, we would need an increase in a new aid support. So for our Tier 2 additions, we're looking at increasing our science kits, introducing a lab school honors program, a 0.4 FTE. So basically, we'd be looking at adding 2 sections, one for humanities and one for STEM. And we're looking at several different models for that. But that's right now the 2 themes we're looking at are one in humanities and one in STEM. An RTI coordinator / K-5 technology administrator. As you know, last year we added all of the intervention specialists, and right now each of the individual building principals sort of oversees the RTI program within their building. As we're seeing that program grow and more students being serviced, it's really important that we have sort of uniform guidelines in each of the buildings that's easily overseen by a single person, and there's no way a single principal could handle that right now. So we're thinking that somebody to coordinate that program will really help move it forward to continue to do the good work that it's already begun. And on top of that, that person could be an embedded K-5 technology coach within the classrooms, helping teachers to utilize the technology in their classroom. And along with that, we have the instruction, that would be for K-5, so we also are looking at adding technology support at the secondary level by the way of increasing our stipends for teachers to be able to provide support to their colleagues. We are proposing the addition of another intervention specialist on top of the 7 that we added last year. We're seeing that given our numbers, we're still tight in terms of being able to staff and meet the needs of all of the students. So we feel that an additional intervention specialist will help us meet those needs, and it will also eliminate the need for one of the intervention specialists to be traveling between buildings, which obviously makes it, that cuts down on the number of students they can serve as well. An increase in our music repair budget and replacement budget, and then training for both an AP chemistry teacher and possible project lead the way training. These are both subject to our new hires. As you know, we have both an AP chemistry teacher and a project lead the way teacher retiring. So when we bring somebody new on, if they don't have these trainings, we would have to provide those for them. And then finally, Tier 3, some restorations here. We're looking to restore both the middle school and high school art club. We'd like to start up and really sort of bring back an elementary summer program to help bridge students from kindergarten to first grade. The restoration of a library media coordinator, and along with that, some additional library support for the database system. And that's really just an extension of one more year on that. And then finally, restoring a K-12 guidance counselor. Currently, we just have a 9-12 guidance supervisor, or coordinator, I should say, which, we really, if we were able to add a K-12 supervisor, we'd be able to have a more continuum of services that's more cohesive and that could ensure that, the support that the students are receiving at the elementary, middle, and high school level is part of a program, not sort of individualized based on what level you're at. So if we put all of those things together, you can see that, the first tier is about $200,000, the second $250,000, the third $120,000. So total additions $580, and then when we reduce that with the $156 from the reductions, we're looking at a $424,000 amount in terms of our overall request for additions. So, questions?
Who's got a question? Yeah, Joanne?
Yeah, I had a couple questions.
Sure.
Can you say, I didn't really get what this funding was actually going toward. The increase in ELA, math, science, I guess, is that the middle school? You said that
No,
would...
so each supervisor currently is 0.8 administrative, 0.2
Okay.
teaching responsibility. So they would be released from their .2 teaching responsibility, which would then open up, obviously, a .2 in math, a .2 in ELA, a .2 in social. So it's a 1.0 overall, but it's only a .2 in each of the disciplines.
Okay.
And it could be middle school, it could be high school, depending on where the supervisor currently teaches.
Okay. But that will allow the supervisors to have more time and flexibility to get in.
And the
to
push
those
would be for them to spend more time in the elementary level.
Okay.
Right now, the fact that they're housed here at the high school, they spend a lot of time in high school classrooms. They also spend a lot of time in middle school classrooms. It's not as sort of natural to be in the elementary buildings.
Okay.
Having the additional observation component will help them sort of gain their way and start to develop some more relationship at the elementary level and really help coach the elementary teachers in the different disciplinary areas.
Okay, thank you. And my other question on that same slide was the increasing the noon hour aid time in the elementary level. Is that in response to the surveys that we had that really pointed to issues with the noon aids and with the recess and lunchtime not? I mean, is there?
Not directly, somewhat, because there are concerns with K-2 students having enough time, especially in the winter when they have all their winter gear, they don't finish their lunches, or they don't get enough time for recess. So hopefully that will help. And the other piece you're talking about with the noon aids is not really addressed this way, but is being addressed through another venue.
Okay, so we are, through a mix of things, addressing some of those survey weaknesses.
Correct.
And the issue with the noon aids, which I've heard for my entire career in the Bethlehem School District. Okay, that's good. And then I guess my last question is that the next slide on, or maybe it's not my last question, but for now, the music equipment repair and replace, I'm glad to see that in there. The one thought I was thinking about related to the music program is, we see these spectacular music events, and we see the fruits of really an exceptional group of individuals leading our music program and their dedication. I was wondering, after the last concert, whether or not we are being strategic about looking at the music program and saying, gee, it's really great now. Are we making sure we're doing everything we need to do so that we're continuing on a path of continuing to be a great program? Because I'm assuming the music program, and I wasn't here for, the real deep budget cuts, but I'm assuming they got hit as well, yet you don't often see kind of FTEs or staff or stuff like that being added. You see more things like this, and I know, we've had instruments that, we've gotten some outside funding to support, and all that's good. I'm not maybe even suggesting for this year, but I just want to kind of plant that seed because we do have an exceptional music program, and I want to make sure that we're keeping sort of our mind on our focus on the ball in the out years of making sure we're building there as well. So just a comment, I guess.
I do have one follow-up question to Joanne's first question about the increase in ELA and math, science, and whatnot. In addition, that would help the elementary principals, I believe you would.
Correct. As part of the new APPR requirements that take effect next year, schools are required to use what the state calls independent evaluators to observe teachers. And so basically that means an administrator that's not tied to that particular building via the BEDS code. So one thing you could do is you could have principals from other buildings sort of rotating around to observe teachers, which presents a whole host of issues, as you can imagine, when principals are, going to other buildings and then leaving their own building, sort of having to find coverage for it. So the supervisor would be able to fill that role where they're going in and picking up some of the observations. Again, yes, it will fulfill the state requirement, but I think further it will allow the supervisors more of a natural ability to be in the buildings, working with teachers and helping them with some of the content specific questions that they might have.
Can I
Thank
just
you.
follow up on that?
Yep.
not to interrupt you, Charmaine, but, so if our supervisors are all going to be administrative, would it be appropriate for them to be part of an administrative group?
Well, so currently, in the BCTA, we do have, like, the CSE chairs are part of the BCTA, and they do not have instructional duties. So it's not unheard of for supervisors to no longer be teaching courses, but still be part of the teacher unit. But that's for a greater discussion, but.
Right, but
Yeah.
it did cross my mind. And a question about the science kits. Do we use science kits all the way through high school? It says K to 12 science kits. I thought they were more for the elementary level.
The kits themselves are more for elementary. Mrs. Gagne, do you want to speak to?
Thank you.
Yeah,
I have several questions. So on slide 22, the K through 12 guidance supervisor, if that position was restored, how does it relate to the 9 to 12 coordinator at the
The
high
9th,
school?
12th coordinator would be eliminated, reduced.
You would eliminate that
Right,
position?
yes.
Okay. So would that be represented as savings then, or reductions on the budget?
A little bit, it's only like $1,000 stipend in
Oh, okay.
some release
Okay, got
time,
it.
so it's not a huge dollar amount.
Okay. On page 21, the RTI coordinator, K-5 technology administrator, so you would look for someone who had experience in both of those areas, I would assume?
Yes, so, it would be an administrative role. So we'd be looking for somebody that has experience as a elementary classroom teacher possibly, that worked in an RTI program that was heavily using technology of their own when they taught.
Okay.
We might look at someone that's presently sitting as, say, an assistant principal at an elementary school, so that maybe right now they're overseeing an RTI program and/or technology. Some schools have these as separate components where they're sort of an assistant principal at an elementary level where they might oversee the RTI program and do some discipline stuff. Or I've seen schools where they might be assist with the discipline and do some technology things. We're looking more instructional support than sort of the discipline side of things with this position.
Okay. And when you're asking for an additional intervention specialist, do you know now roughly how many students each RTI specialist sees? Roughly?
I could bring it up.
Yeah, I want to say they're like 40-ish or so, 35 to 40, depending on, it's hard to do an average because like the reading teachers who are seeing the highest need students might see students one-on-one or in groups of two, where a math teacher who's doing math intervention might see 5 or 6 students. I would say if you took an average, and Dave could double check this, we just did numbers, I'm thinking around 30 to 35 students would be an average per teacher, some a little higher, some a little less.
And is there a recommended number in your discipline for what that caseload should be?
Well, it depends on the tier.
Okay.
So the group sizes could be 1 to 2 students or the recommended around 5 to 6 students, depending on what tier you're in. So right now, some of the buildings are able to better serve the 1 to 2 student size groups because they're smaller buildings and they just have the capacity to do so. Adding this additional support would allow the 2 larger buildings to do the same thing, basically.
Then on page 19, when you were talking about the middle school sections, you were talking about sections like 22 per section. Does that mean a class? I mean, what's the difference between a section and a class?
That would sort of be the average size. So in other words, in the 6th grade, there would be P1, P2, Mohawk, and on each of those, there would be 5, what we'd consider sections, I guess. So if you think of it, there's other ones, but if you thought of it as like a math section, science, ELA, social studies, foreign language, there would be approximately 22 students in each one of those.
So a section is class,
Sort of per
basically.
class, yeah. I mean, it's hard to give the same type of number like you would with elementary, but it's similar in nature.
Okay. I only have 2 more questions. On page 15, I think it says guidance 19, 19 people in guidance. Is that for all of the buildings? Is that high school and middle school and elementary, the 19 guidance people? Number of
Yes,
employees?
and it also includes the support
The
staff.
clerical, too.
Okay.
Includes the clerical as well.
Okay. And then lastly, on page 14, the equipment budget of 66, I assume that does not include the technology, because technology had its own
No.
presentation.
Right, so
does
that
not.
is simply, like I said, music equipment, art equipment, tech ed equipment, not technology in terms of.
Technology is much
Right.
different, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else?
on-
Christine?
Yeah, I have quite a few questions, sorry. On page 13, where you just outlined the K-12 instructional amounts from last year, 2015, 16, 17, that increase it appears to be all just salary related in the budget increase without any of your additions. Would that be accurate? It looks like it's a difference of like $603,265.
Right.
So
About
it's just
2%.
salary, there's nothing additional in there. So I just wanted to clarify that first. On page 18, for the elementary enrollment, it looks like we're going from staffing of 86 in the school year 15-16 to 16-17. What's happening with those two?
Actually, that slide never got updated. It should be 86 also.
Okay, so it's remaining constant.
Yes.
So even with a decreased enrollment, we're going to see a little bit
Yes,
of
Eagle,
lower
the number should
enrollment.
actually be 19, and Ellesmere should be 14. Oh,
Okay.
no, I'm sorry, the numbers are correct. It's the total at the bottom should be 86 also. I updated the top numbers and I.
Okay, so it's
My-
86 and 86,
Yes,
there's
my-
no decrease
no,
in
there's
two
no
teachers?
decrease. My apologies.
Okay, just making sure. Tier 1, I guess this is just an observation, and it's no way a criticism, but it's all increase in like substitute teachers, pay, or change of position, and I guess I'm wondering why there isn't more instructional, like where are we moving forward next year in curriculum? Like I don't see a lot of advancement in that particular area. And everything that is instructionally based is listed in Tier 2. So I just wanted to note that as an observation because I think that we're getting aid back this year, and yes, we have to restore some of the programs or some of the decreases we've had to make over the years, but it's important to make sure that we're looking forward for next year and what areas are we looking to move forward, and I don't see that in this current budget. And with regards to the intervention specialists, well, I know the feedback is really great on the RTIs. We're only in year 1, and we added 7 RTIs, so I would be hesitant at this point without collecting additional data to see if we could exist with the 7 RTI specialists that we currently have. I mean,
We
it's
actually added 5.
5,
We
I'm
didn't
sorry, I
add
thought you said
7.
7, my
5.
mistake. But 5, so it was still a large number of teachers that we reallocated to that area. So it's just more of an observation, just to say that I'm just surprised in this budget when we're getting so much aid back that we don't see a little more in the instructional additions, such as like the computer science program. I know it was a big success this year.
Well, we are offering 2 more sections of computer science next year. There's just no budget implication to it.
Okay.
And I'll speak real quickly to, our thought process behind the tiers was, yes, we'd like to put all of these things on Tier 1. We just thought that it would be more responsible for us to allow you to sort of make some decisions as well, in that, Tier 1 are essentially things, most of these items are contractual obligations or things we really have to have. Tier 2 are things we'd really, really love to have, and Tier 3 are things we'd really, really like to have. I mean, it's not that we wouldn't want any of these things, it's just, we had to try to break things down and to allow you to sort of make things into smaller chunks and make decisions based on that. In our ideal world, we'd have all of these things on Tier 1 at the top.
Right.
It's just, in working as a group, we came up with, let's try to break it down into manageable chunks so that the board can make decisions if they decide not to approve all of them. But to your point, yes, we would love to have all of these things on Tier 1 in the top position.
And also, aren't we currently having an issue with getting substitutes at the rate we pay?
Right,
I know, yeah.
certain areas we are, but several of them are not contractual obligations. It's just an observation, not a criticism.
And remember, when we were formulating these priorities, we had no idea what we were going to see in
Right,
state aid.
exactly,
So we
right.
needed to prioritize those requests because we had no idea what our resources were going to look like.
I'm just thinking a little bit of balance on it. And lastly, on the home instruction, on the original, it shows a decrease of just like $300. But then on the additional, there was something on home instruction, but it looked like there was a $5,000 amount in there. Oh, increase. So the increase in rate for tutors is going up and the cost is $5,000. I was just wondering how that works into that, how it's going down on the original page 13.
Because the overall expenses, what we've been paying for the last few years has been less. So what we've budgeted, we haven't actually expended, so we
Okay.
reduced that amount.
It was an over budget, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Diane.
Just on page 22 on your tier 3, I just need explanation on the summer program, the elementary summer program, K through 1, like the hours that it would take place.
So we're looking at 3 days a week for about half day.
Coincide with the special ed program.
It's running at Eagle with the special ed summer program. And each of the principals have been identifying, the potential, how many students we'd be looking at. I think we're roughly going to be in, the 50 to 60 student range that we'd be inviting to the program, based on student need. And again, it's to bridge that gap from, the students that are leaving kindergarten that we feel would really benefit from a continuation of services through the summer so that they can begin, first grade on very, very solid footing.
Diane, that kind of came out of the kindergarten review committee because
Yeah, no,
you know,
I
we
like
weren't going
it.
to change the age for starting
Right, no, I
kindergarten
knew
back to
that.
September 1st without maybe a state mandate to do that. So,
No, I knew that.
So
Just-
then we were trying to figure out ways to, help those students
So would
be
that
more
would that
successful.
So we
combine
didn't
academic
have
and
it
social?
before.
Is that kind of combined academic and social program?
I would say.
Sort of?
More on the academic side.
Okay.
I mean, it's short programs.
Okay. And I was just wondering, with the $10,000, that's enough money, like, for busing and,
We already utilized the buses for the
For the
summer
special ed,
special ed
so
program,
it's
so
just-
it's minimal impact of busing.
good.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. Thank you very much, Dave. Appreciate it.
I had to move because I thought I was going to get frostbite.
I know it is cold here. It's cold.
Mr. Nolte.
Did you note his lowered energy costs?
Yes, we're saving money. So essentially what we've done is taken all the prior presentations, including tonight, and we put them in a district-wide priority list for consideration, discussion, and obviously that's where we ultimately need to get to in the budget adoption. So the only reductions we're suggesting is the middle school sixth grade team due to enrollment and the IB funding reduction. So what we have here for the additions are, again, by department. So in the first tier of additions or priority additions, obviously we have some special ed needs where students who have been in the program since kindergarten are coming to the high school. So that would be one of our top priority. And then some of the sub-rates, increasing the rates. We talked about that looking at a few meetings ago, looking at the anticipation of increase in minimum wage and the shortage of substitutes in all areas. The supervisor released to help with instructional program at the elementary level and increasing some time for the primary lunch students to a total of about $640,000 if you want to kind of chunk those in order of magnitude and dollar amounts. The second tier additions, you can see, are a little bit lesser in dollar amounts, but a few more items. So we would be looking to add here more in the way of some additional instructional staff in special education, looking to add some of the honors program, the athletic trainer, which was Mr. Key's recommendation for one of his top priorities. The intervention teacher, we only had, O&M only asked for the custodian at the middle school and adding some professional development for our science and technology and the music program. And if we can get to all of these, it would be wonderful for our third tier to about $450,000, looking to add the modified cross-country and track programs for our students. the additional middle school special education teacher and the aide that coincides with the program, restoring the art clubs, the elementary summer programs, and some of the other supports for the library media center, the guidance supervisor. We talked quite a bit about the elementary bus runs and the partial restoration of the transportation supervisor that was cut a few years ago in the budget. So again, about $450,000 if we want to look at this in different tiers of priorities. The fund balance, Judy, do you want to talk just a little bit about what all of these different components of the fund balance refer to?
Sure. Within our overall fund balance, we have authorized reserves that are designated for specific purposes. As part of the ultimate budget adoption, we look at what these reserves need to be and what we're recommending or projecting they'll be as of the end of the year. Most of the statutory reserves we can keep at the same levels as in prior years. Looking at where we expect to end up for this fiscal year ending June 30th, 2016, we are expecting a surplus of around $2.5 million. That's the assumption that we've used on this slide. Obviously, we need to manage our undesignated fund balance so that we keep that below 4% of the total of the subsequent year's appropriations. The surplus that we would have, we would recommend that we would increase the capital reserve with whatever's available. Remember, that was created last year by action of the board and with approval of the community. We will soon be starting discussions on the next round of capital needs and trying to develop a project for the board's consideration and again for public approval. So having that money in the capital reserve becomes a nice way to reduce the amount of debt that we would need to incur. Remember, on this reserve, it is governed by requiring both board action and community action to both create it and then to spend money from it as well.
There's a cap, right, of what you can put into it?
We established a cap when the reserve was created, and that's $10 million.
And there was no annual cap?
No, no annual limit. It can grow. We had to set a time period. We specified a 10-year period, again, not knowing what the actual results would be until each year has finished.
So the decisions that still will need to be made before final board adoption of the budget is the expenditure amount. What are you willing to expend and add to the budget or consider in the overall budget amounts? What are we going to go out with the levy amount? The Mattel is, as Judy pointed out, 1.34. And then we'll need approval of the property tax report card. So at this point, the.
Back a slide, can you go to 30? I think it is. We have a different
This one? Oh,
That's
the
29.
budget decisions?
Budget development, there's a page 30.
Oh.
We got it.
It's that early estimate of tax rates one.
Expenditures, revenues, and gap.
Yep. That's not part of the official presentation. That's why it's not appearing on your slide. That was
Oh,
just
I'm
a
like, I don't see
projection
it.
of
Okay.
what our gap might look like under various scenarios.
Questions?
All right, yeah. Anyone have any questions? Does anyone want to take a vote on adding any expenditures now by tier at this point? Or do you want to take time and think about it and have the meeting on the 13th? Or the 19th?
The last date to adopt is the 19th, which we have a scheduled board meeting. We did have a scheduled future meeting. We had a tentative date for the 13th if you wanted an additional meeting in there for discussion or decisions.
Right. And Mr. Cooper did relay to us as a board that he was fine if we did go ahead and adopt the budget tonight, too. He had seen this material ahead of time, so.
I guess I don't know if I'm missing a chart or, like, if we take tier one, like, do we have to go, like, what do we have to, what's the gap of it?
Right, so, right,
I
if
guess
you're
that's what I'm-
comfortable with certain components of it, you could say, yes, we'll go with tier 1, tier 2, say all 3 of them. And then what we could do is, for the future meeting, we could give you what the breakdown would be in regards to where we stand with the Mattel at that point, or what if we might, if you wanted to go over what we were restored in the state aid, obviously, you know, are you comfortable using fund balance or other sources of
Right.
funding? So,
So what are we, I guess, where is it? Is it 217,000 that we're short if we do all these tiers?
If you were to do everything that has appeared on the slides, there would be a gap of about $217,000. So,
And that's with the, adding the 1.34.
yes,
That's
that's
at
at the Mattel of 1.34, showing the full amount of the state aid. And with everything that's been presented being approved, that would be the gap
Okay.
of 217.
And what if you took tier 1 and tier 2? What would the gap be?
You wouldn't have
You
a gap at all.
Right, we would have-
Based on
there
the
wouldn't be a
influx
gap.
of the state
Okay.
aid.
so the
I guess
surplus,
that's what I just need to see in.
Can I
Right.
get clarification?
Right.
You say a gap, but there's also, you're providing for putting additional funds into the capital reserve? So, I mean, we could reduce the amount of the capital reserve, right?
The capital reserve funding would occur at the end of this fiscal year,
Right.
assuming that our projections are correct and we come in with the surplus. At that time, we would recommend that we fund money from the 15-16 budget, unexpended monies from this year, into the capital reserve.
Right.
The items that have been identified here, there's no recommended funding into the capital reserve for the 16-17 budget. Okay, so
Okay.
that, the reason the
Okay.
fund
Right.
balance slide was there, because that's part of the property tax report card, because you have to identify what those restricted components of the fund balance are. So that was more for informational purposes.
But we could use some of the fund balance for the gap.
But
Right, you could-
we
we could
could.
technically use fund balance for the gap if needed.
And anytime, anything we add back, we've got to remember, we're going to have that same expense subsequent years
Right.
unless we reduce it.
Right. What I don't, I'm just saying personally, I don't feel comfortable trying to adopt tonight. I'd like to get a slide where it talks about the different additions and reductions, gaps, a little bit clearer. And I would like the district to take the feedback they got from board members and just revisit your priority list to make sure you want to ask for everything that you asked for tonight. Given the feedback of the board, do you still want to ask for that, and what the numbers would be then? That's what I would ask for. I personally am not comfortable. I want some time to digest this, and I want time for you to take the feedback that the board, different board members offered you, and come back with a list. I'm not sure we need a meeting on the 13th, but I think we can adopt within another single meeting, but that's what I would propose.
Everyone, any other opinions or anything?
Yeah.
Hi.
I mean, I don't exactly know what the feedback of the board is on the different priorities, though. I guess my feeling is, and I appreciate you prioritizing from the perspective of you and your team, because to me, that's very valuable information that tells me, after you've done this analysis, here's where you think. So I appreciate that. I guess I'm pretty, and I think kind of doing the additions by district-wide, those slides, to me, are the most valuable, because that really paints the picture of what departments these are going in and how that works. I guess from my perspective, that priority 1, you know, I don't have a problem with anything in priority 1. And I would say, for the most part, priority 2, I'm pretty okay with, although some of them, we didn't really talk about what they are, like, I don't know what project, Lead the Way training.
That's for the technology teachers, for the
Okay.
engineering program, the high
Okay.
school.
So, you know, so that, everything in there sort of makes sense to me. I guess tier 3, to me, you know, I personally would like to see a little Chinese menu going on here, where we kind of pick maybe 1 or 2 things from this that we would prioritize. I'm completely with Diane, where I think that elementary summer program makes perfect sense. It seems like it syncs right up with all the investment we've been doing in the RTI stuff. You know, clearly, we're on a roll here with putting resources into these programs that are giving these students at the elementary level a leg up. And if you guys have a need for an additional intervention specialist, I'm completely on board with those, because I think that is, to me, that's investment. That's investment in fixing potential problems that later on come about. And everything we have heard back from those programs is really compelling about the effect it's having. So I'm completely on board there. I mean, some of these other things, I think, we could kind of, like I said, do a little Chinese menu, pick one, maybe two, or whatnot.
So can I just clarify that? So
Sure.
the tiers are in order of priority within the tiers. So for example, they are, but certainly if the board felt like the elementary summer program was more important, or you wanted to go to a certain point in the tiers.
Right.
But they are currently in the order of priority. Now, there's no magic like this really is that much more important when you get to some of these. I mean, they all, as Dave said, are all important, or we wouldn't have them as a recommendation. But certainly in the final adoption, any of these things can be, moved around or adjusted, or you can have a certain cutoff.
Right, no, I got that. But I guess that my point is, I personally like I'm really comfortable tier 1, tier 2. Tier 3, my favorites on this list are that elementary summer program. I just think makes perfect sense with what we're trying to do at the elementary level. And why not identify kids who could benefit so that when they start in kindergarten, they are ready to rock and roll in a way that they wouldn't have been. And then I gotta say, 2 other things on that slide that I feel like there was a really good case for. The track and field and cross-country additional coaching. We have heard over and over again about the need there for some additions to mitigate the big numbers, and I just liked the strategy of creating that modified level and thought, that makes sense also. And then the other one are the buses. I know it's a maybe on here, but we have a problem there with overcrowded buses and long bus routes. I still have an elementary kid, so I talk to a lot of elementary parents, a lot. This is a problem that if you canvass elementary parents, they will tell you. And there's problems on the buses continuously. And I think we got some feedback from the elementary principals, and I can't remember what the mechanism of the feedback, but they validated that. And so I hate to see our elementary buses. I like the maybe, and I saw the footnote that said maybe that could be a breakage funding. That's creative financing, works for me, so, thanks.
And I would say that, Judy, in the past, you've kind of done that, highlighted where, if we accept this, what the gap is, if anything, or where we are, and what the Mattel would be. So I think for the next meeting, we would like to have that.
And I'm okay with the Mattel, by the way. Just want to put that out there.
I just have a question going back, and this is on Tier 3. Tier 1 has the special ed teacher, we talked about the intensive skills program, moving up to high school. Of course, that makes, obviously, we need to do that. But then on Tier 3, we have the .6 teacher and aide, and it would seem like either we need that or we don't, and I don't know why it's on Tier 3.
The reason that's on tier 3 is because we try to prioritize all of these things district-wide, obviously. And in the middle school, we're still having annual reviews. We still have, we're working on numbers because it's only April. And we anticipate that we would have a need for a part-time teacher there, particularly for resource rooms. So if we were not able to fund that, again, as Judy said, we didn't know what our state aid was going to be if we were getting GEA, all of our GEA restored, then that was lowest on the priority for special ed because we could bump up resource rooms. So instead of having 3 students, you might have 5 students with a teacher. Maybe you go over and have 6 students. So that's how we would manage that. Right.
I would just say in terms of the track teams, I've been thinking about this a lot. Those, you can have a middle school program, I would support it. It will do nothing to alleviate the numbers in the high school. So what I would suggest is that the district partner with the booster clubs to see if they would be willing to fund, because I think we're accepting a bunch of donations later on for coaching positions from other booster clubs. So in order to get additional coaches or the athlete to coach ratio down at the high school, you have to hire more coaches, not, and the middle school program's not going to be for the high school students. We discussed that quite a bit last time, so.
It would likely be an opportunity more for middle school students, but not necessarily to reduce the
Right, to
high
funnel
school
into the high school
numbers.
programs, but I would suggest that the district explore a partnership with the booster clubs to hire additional coaches at the high school level.
And maybe look at attendance requirements too for track. I mean,
There are.
you know, the students
There are.
want to be on a team, they have the responsibility to be there, and if they're not, I mean, if we don't cut anybody, that's fine, but
No, there are attendance requirements. There's 200 kids on a team. I mean, they all show up. That's not the issue.
okay. As
Yes,
long as they show
Christine.
up consistently.
I
Christine.
have a question for Kathy. I know you had answered the question on the intensive skill program aides at the high school because you have students going up, they need aides. Do all intensive skills students have one-on-one aides? No. They don't. So are we 2 aides short based on the population? Is the population increasing, I guess is my question, from last year to this year?
We have students, it's going to be a new program at the high school.
Right, correct.
And we have students that will be in that program that will require aid support. So we need to leave, we still have the programs at the elementary and middle school.
Okay.
So we're creating, if I took the aides from the middle school, I wouldn't have aides there. So as you add another teacher, and we have students, we had the maximum number of students at the middle school this year, some of them will come to the high school. So I need the aid ratio to stay at the middle school, and I need aides to come to the high school.
I guess I'm still a little confused, because if you have do you have 2 aides going to the high school, so those particular students have one-on-one aides. So at the middle school, they had one-on-one aides, so the ratio still technically would have been the same for the other.
When you have a program, SED, state aid gives us a ratio with, so we'll have like a 6-1-2 program, okay? 6 students, 1 teacher, 2 aides. If one of those 6 students needs a one-on-one aide, I still have to have those 2 aides. It's part of the ratio.
Right.
So if students are coming with a one-on-one aide, I still have to have the ratio for the program.
The other thing, maybe, when the students are coming up to the high school, but we also have students from the elementary going into the middle school programs and
So the
kids coming
ratio
into K going into the elementary. So we have kids still coming into it's not like a.
So those 2 students leave with their 2 one-on-ones, but you have more coming in that throws
Correct.
off the balance of the aid ratio. That's all I wanted to make sure of, okay. So I'm good with tier 1. I mean, those are items that it appears that we need. Tier 2, I question the RTI. I'll put that out there, it's $100,000. I think we've only had the program 1 year. I think that's something that could possibly be moved down to tier 3, and some of the items on tier 3, such as restoring the art club and the high school art club, back up to tier 2. I'd be cautious to adding the modified boys and girls cross-country and track team. Again, I don't think it's going to affect the numbers that much, and also we have to support it in future years going forward. And I do question having an athletic trainer. I think it's a perk. I don't think it's a need, and there might be items on 3 that might be more suited for level 2. So that would be my thoughts. And Mattel, I don't think I'd want to go to the full Mattel. I'd like to try to keep it as low as possible between level 1 and level 2, and keep a good eye on the budget for next year, because we might not get this money for next year.
I just want one point of clarification. RTI has been in existence more than 1 year, though. I think we just,
Yeah.
right, we added
This is
additional
the
staffing
4th year
yesterday,
of
so.
RTI. We added the staff.
We added the staff
Staffing,
last
right,
year,
but,
so,
yeah.
but to
So
add
they
more
have-
staff,
right.
that's what I'm referring to.
Maybe it'd
But
be
they
helpful
have
to have
history
it,
of it,
you
yeah.
know, show us how exactly the extra position would be used. Maybe that would
Right,
be
and
helpful.
don't forget that is a combined position with the instructional tech support at the elementary, so it's not just RTI.
It sounds like for the next meeting to come with more information about that program, the numbers and all the
Sure.
rest, so that people, I would, by the way, support the athletic trainer. There's a huge number of athletes here, and I think a part-time trainer does not, I would support a full-time trainer, just because I know specifically about that area. And again, I would trust your judgment to take the discussion and consider and reconsider and come back. I'd like to see a gap of 0, to be honest with you. There's like $200,000 in there.
Right.
See if you can get that down to 0.
And if I can add a commentary, I think this is a very unusual year, and I think part of the reason why you're struggling with these decisions is because you're not used to being in this situation of having the budget be so close to balanced. In the years gone by, we've been looking at not even being able to get fully into our second-tier additions. We've been looking at reductions.
Actually, we had, the
and-
tiers were reductions.
Yeah,
That's what they were the
yeah,
opposite.
exactly.
They were, what are stuff we can cut and live without? What are
Yes.
the next things will be
Right.
less impactful? And then what's, okay, we
But
still need
but
to come up with $1 million cut.
Yes.
What can we cut?
So we're in a
We're in the
completely-
complete opposite.
We're in a spending mode, which I
Yes.
think we need to be cautious about.
But, and let me say, we have, over these years of these really hard reductions, have built what I'll call a culture of restraint. So in the beginning of our budget process, when we started asking principals and supervisors, what do you need to make the program better? There was a lot of thought that went into it, and the list was initially higher. And there were a number of items where they said, you know what, I don't really need this after all. People have learned to work very smart with the limited resources that they have. So this list is really a sincere list of the items that will be very helpful and beneficial to the program. It is restrained growth, and we do have the ability at Mattel or very close to it where we can fund right on through priority 3. We do have, as you noted, there's some breakage that I can use to help close that gap as well. So we have essentially a balanced budget. And we were trying to get feedback, is there anything on these additions that you really don't want to support? I mean, I can put it together and give you that balanced budget, but we need that feedback of, is there anything that you just do not wish to support? And then we can tie it all together for you.
Or the additional information. So obviously, some additional information on the RTI numbers and that combined position might support.
Judy, what would be the effect of, on next year's budget of all these increases if, for example, when you were giving the update, the foundation aid amount, which will be the only thing we'll be looking at in the future now that the GEA is gone, thank heavens. But
Plus the
if
expense-based aids that we will be getting still. I
Right.
mean, they haven't changed any of those formulas.
But there's more flexibility with the foundation aid, and it wasn't increased this year, wasn't increased last year, and I worry about the future, because maybe there might be, as much as our legislators did and the governor did, they may feel like, well, we've done it, so we don't have to do anything more, and be a little restrictive again next year on the aid. If we approve all this stuff, will this have a big impact on next year's budget if that aid isn't increased?
Yeah, and as you know, we look at the longer-term view just to make sure that we're not going to be having those issues. So, no, there are no significant concerns with adding these programs in. Some of them are equipment, which can effectively be, a one-time item. You wouldn't need to have that as a recurring cost going forward. These staffing additions will serve the program well in the coming year. As you know, we look at that every year, and whether, if the enrollment is changing, if the program needs are changing, we'll be making those modifications too. So, no, we are still, for both our short-term and our long-term forecast, on solid ground. We just had an update from Moody's. As a municipal issuer of debt, they look at our financial position, and it was very positive. They were citing, the growth in cash position, the strength of the fund balance. I mean, they were very positive on the Bethlehem Central School District. It wasn't a re-rating, so we're not going to see an uptick at this time, but they don't look at just 1 year in time either. They're looking at the projection and our ability to balance the budget. So we're in a very good place.
I think the other point that's important is, as we are putting all of this together, we were cognizant of, when you're adding FTE, there's obviously more of a long-term cost associated with that than, as Judy said, if you add some money for training, some money for supplies. So, and this may address, Christine, your question about, why not more for some of the curriculum and instructional, is I think we've gotten really good at looking at with our FTE that we have and what students, particularly at the secondary level, are requesting. As Dave said, this year we had one computer science course. Next year, we're able to add have 2 additional sections, in part by using our staff more efficiently. So it's not a matter of not looking at our curriculum and instructional program and adding if we need it, but also, having gone through 45, 50 reductions in teachers and another 40 in support staff, I think it is important to see how we can use our current staff for the classes that students are requesting the most, and not just always adding FTE, because you don't want to get to a point where we're just cutting and cutting and cutting, because as Matt said, adding tiered reductions in what we're going to cut was not an enjoyable process. So we're trying to be mindful of what we can realistically afford now and in the future.
Can I ask a
Yep, no.
I just want to ask a question on the Mattel. So the revised number is up, it's a 1.34%.
It's down.
Down. It was
It's down.
1.45.
It was
No, I know
1.45,
that.
yeah.
But the real percentage is, it's a,
1.34, that's the amount of the
that's
levy
the amount of the
increase.
levy.
The tax rate
Okay, that's what I'm
increase is what you're
asking about.
thinking of probably.
Right.
I won't know exactly what that is until the town of Bethlehem and the town of New Scotland finish their
Okay.
assessment rolls. But remember, this year in the Mattel calculations, we had the highest increase in our tax base growth factor. That's a sign that your assessed values are increasing. So what I'm hearing from the assessors and what I saw on the very preliminary totals is that the assessed values are going up. Again, more people are sharing than in the
Right.
taxes, that lowers the rate. So it looks like it will be below 1%,
Right.
even if you adopt a budget that includes the 1.34.
Right, that's what I was
Yeah.
asking
How much
for.
lower, I don't know yet.
Okay, but under 1% likely?
Yeah.
Okay, which is pretty darn good if you're a taxpayer in this town.
Right, so just to summarize, and I want to thank Jody and Judy again for reminding us of the effort that you and your administrative team and all the supervisors and principals have put into developing this budget. It's not a 2-hour presentation. It's days and days of working together, coming up with what the district needs are in terms of balancing that against increased costs and to be able to sustain those costs going forward. So I want to thank you again for all your effort and work and making this presentation to us. And we have these thoughtful discussions and questions back to you, and we look forward to some responses back. Yes.
Can I ask another question? And this is on a Tier 3 item, restoring the K-12 guidance supervisor. Now, that position wasn't eliminated because of, the last couple of years. Actually, it was quite a few years ago that we eliminated it.
It was 612 too at the time.
Right.
The last time we had it, it was actually only a 612 position, so it wasn't the most effective model.
Right, and I guess that's, because it wasn't because of finances that we eliminated, it was
Well,
the effectiveness of the role at that time.
True, there was concerns about that as well. I think it was right around the beginning of the budget issues too, when that happened. But yeah, the 612 did not work.
So if you could maybe describe a little bit more exactly what that person will do K-12 wise,
And the
I think
need.
that would be helpful too.
Yep.
Or revisit the need.
Yeah, the need.
Can I just say one other thing? And this is really for, I think, the people watching, the public in particular. One of the things that I realized after I did this a couple of times was when you see sort of the buckets of we're adding here, we're adding there, we're switching this around, we're doing this. I think when you're in the public, and certainly something that I didn't see when you see the PowerPoint, is this is the mechanics behind a strategy that the district has to, offer a very comprehensive education program. And I was struck by your comment about computer science and adding there, because that's sort of the very visible piece if you're if you have a student in the school system of, oh, okay, I get that. So, I mean, when you look at the PowerPoints and you kind of look at us talking about, point 2 here and, all of this, I think you don't understand that it's not just about like adding a point 2 and, now we have an extra little resource here that adds value this way. It's part of an overall strategy that's all about meeting the needs, but also stretching the opportunities for students. And I think it's, you miss that if you just watch this on TV and at home.
And that's a good point, though, to what you were saying about the computer science. But the average person doesn't know that you added 2 sections
Sure.
of computer science. So I think it'd be helpful as part of the instructional presentation to maybe highlight some of the changes for the upcoming year. So when people are voting on the budget, they see what their tax dollar is going for instructionally. I mean, I was happy to hear that there was 2 additional classes, but I didn't know that. So,
Right.
and
Right, we could talk, maybe next meeting, we could do a little update on some of the additional classes we're running or new things we're doing
Yeah.
for next year. It's a good
Just a
point.
thought.
It
Because we're
is.
so, we do it all the time, so.
Yeah,
we're-
but I also think that's really the purpose and the value of what you see throughout the year. Throughout the year is a little showcasing of, instructional or arts or music or, athletics or, all of those pieces. And I think what you have to do is put all the dots together. And here we are building a budget, but what you've seen the past year is the manifestation of what you built before. So I think it's about connecting the dots, really.
Christine, did you? Bless you.
Bless you.
Anyone? All right.
No.
So we'll adopt on the 19th. We won't have the anticipated meeting on the 13th next Wednesday? Everybody comfortable with that, or do they want the meeting on the 13th in case we have additional
Well,
questions?
it depends. Are you going to be looking at the tiers and possibly moving things around, or is it set in stone? If they're going to be moving stuff around and changing it, then I think the 13th is warranted. If not, and this is what we have, then the 19th is fine if it's not.
Well,
We definitely have to meet on the 19th, right?
Right.
It's a regular
Right.
board meeting.
So let's do it then.
So just do it.
I think the 19th's fine. I think
Okay.
Okay.
you're going to come back
I
to
think
us.
if you take
we're
the
gonna-
feedback, you've
Right.
heard what the concerns
Yeah.
are, come back with something.
And you'll-
and-
And again,
you'll
so
send
much
us
effort
to
has
them,
been put
so-
into this already that,
No.
I mean, obviously, you've heard all of the concerns that we've had and what people might support and might not support, and, and again, I know what was very helpful for me and myself, I believe, in the past where we had that, okay, what, if we cut, or now, then, hopefully, the good thing is we'll add. Where's the, how does that place us with the revenue?
We can have a live spreadsheet with all of that, so then we can
exactly,
just
that's-
figure that out
exactly.
right
Yeah.
at the meeting.
Yep,
Yeah.
that'll be very beneficial.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, great. Anyone else, any questions? No? Okay, it is.
What I might ask, though, is perhaps after this meeting, if the board members could just see if we want to use the 13th for a meeting for something else.
Okay.
Yes, related to the search.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay. It is 8:58, so we will take a 10-minute break so that the participation in government students can come up. You need to sign out in order to get credit with your instructor, your teacher.
There are
And if you
several
have
sheets.
sheets
There's
that
several
need to be
places
signed
you
by
can
the board
sign up.
members, we can do that for you.
You can put your name there.
Two over here.
All right. What are you still doing here? I thought you had to leave.
It's all over the place.
Let's continue on. Let me pull up the agenda here myself and see where we're at. We did the presentations, and now,
Yeah, well, that's right.
next on the agenda is recognition of visitors. The board would invite anyone to come up to the microphone in the audience who would like to address the board on an agenda item. Is there anyone that would like to do that? Yes, if you could, yes. Judy?
Good evening. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my remarks. I'm going to say this is an
And
agenda.
just state your name for the
My
TV.
name is Nell Ball, and I'm going to tell you that my item is an agenda item because I believe part of what I'm going to be speaking to tonight does affect the agenda because of the amount of money that's put into state testing and New York State testing. So I'd like to share with you right now my remarks about that.
We do have another section that's a non-agenda item.
But
Okay.
wouldn't you say the amount of time and money being spent on New York State testing could affect our budgets?
Well, it would affect the state budget. I'm okay with you
Are we
addressing us
saying that
now on
the
a
school
non-agenda
district,
item.
does the
Is
school
everybody okay?
district,
Okay?
It's
All right.
does
Okay.
the school
No, go-
district
go ahead.
spend money on New York State testing?
I don't know
Does
specifically.
the school district, is it a line item that we could?
You can address us now. You
Is
can
it a
address
line
us.
item that we could see? Is there a line item on how much money is spent on state testing?
It's several line items.
It's several. Does anyone know an exact total?
The last time I did a calculation with subs and everything, it was probably a few $100,000.
A few $100,000 on New York State testing. So I believe my remarks, which are part of my remarks, are going to be explaining to you why we are refusing the New York State test for my son, and some other information that has been sent out by the district do relate to the budget because of these flawed tests that we continue to administer affect the money that could be put into programs, could be put into instructional staff, could be, a lot of things in this budget. So like I said, my name is Nell Ball, and I'm here today as a parent of a 7th grader, an 11th grader, and a graduate of Bethlehem. A graduate who is thriving in college before, the amount of testing that has started now. We are both teachers, and we each of us have taught in public schools for over 20 years. We are here tonight, though, as parents. As you know, today marks the first day of standardized testing for New York State 3rd through 8th graders. For the next 2 weeks, they will sit for 6 days of testing in ELA and math. Then in May, our 4th and 8th graders will take part in 2 more days of New York State science testing. Sometime this spring, our 3rd graders from Hammergrill and Eagle, 4th graders from Glenmont, and 8th graders at the middle school will have an additional day of tests due to New York State field testing. Hours and hours of standardized testing that takes away from authentic instruction and learning. Last March, Matt and I shared with the board our reason for refusing the New York State ELA, math, and field tests for our then 6th grader. We are here again tonight to share why we are continuing to refuse the New York State tests for our now 7th grader. And one way to put this might be that we are pro-education, not anti-testing. Our son is very capable of taking these standardized tests. We did not refuse these tests because he did not want to take them. He knows the tests are part of school life. We are refusing the New York State standardized tests because they continue to be major flaws in the way they're developed, in who has to take them, in the lack of specific information they provide schools and parents about our students, in the amount of money our schools have to spend on them, and in the way our children are being used as pawns by politicians and corporations. NYSED has spent a lot of time, money, and effort in trying to convince the public that sweeping changes have been made to the 3rd through 8th grade assessments. On March 2nd, we sent out a document entitled Changes to the 2016 Grade 3 through 8 Assessments. What parents need to know. Remember, these changes only happened after 200,000 students refused to take the 2015 New York State ELA and math tests a year ago. In thinking about these changes, here is some more information that parents need to know beyond what NYSED offers. Although the tests are shorter and on time, test passages continue to be developmentally inappropriate. They show the untimed change is not significant. Children will still be taking tests in excess of 6 hours at the elementary level, just for ELA and math alone, and in excess of 9 hours at the middle school level. For some of our students, it'll be double that because of the challenge. Another change that was said in 2016, Questar was hired to develop the new tests, but test content for the 2016 and 2017 tests are still developed by Pearson, a company that's made tens of millions of dollars off of our children. We're continuing to refuse the tests because of the things that have not yet changed. Parents still do not have any access to the actual tests their children and students complete, because if they did, we would know how to help them. Feedback is still in the form of a number that gives parents no useful information about their children. Students will have already moved on to the next grade level before state test scores are released. Tests still will provide little or no timely feedback to parents, teachers, and administrators. We're refusing the tests not only for our own children, but for the children who shouldn't be taking these tests, our special ed students and some of our English language learners. These are some of the reasons we're refusing the tests. And we think that changes need to be made before our child will participate again. And again, I go back to the budget, the amount of money that we continue to have to spend on tests that are flawed. We also want to address our concerns about the misinformation that was distributed through the PTO about standardized testing from a group called BC Parents for Excellence. They sent out a flyer, which I think you're all aware of, called Why Participation Matters in Standardized Testing, Important Facts for Parents. And we believe that the PTA is an organization made up of teachers, parents, students, and administrators, and if information is going out through them, it should send a message that the district backs. The message contained in this flyer was misguided, and we believe the district should send out a written response to the BC community about that. That's not their stance on testing. And are you all aware of that flyer that went home?
Yeah.
Is the whole board aware?
Haven't seen it, but where?
Is that a yes or a no?
Yes,
Okay.
it is, yes.
We came here tonight to explain why we are refusing the test for our son, but we're also here to make a plea for our school board and our school district. We are asking that you look closely at the New York State standardized testing from all perspectives and do what is best for all of our learners. Do we continue to toe the party line of agendas being set forth by lawmakers? Or do we all make a clear statement about what is flawed with 3rd through 8 New York State standardized tests and advocate for change? That's what Matt and I are trying to do here tonight, and we ask the district and the board to do the same. These tests are unnecessary burden, a misguided state policy, and they are not what is best for children. And in the end, I think we can save some money by them changing. Thank you for listening to my remarks.
Thank you for your comments. I do want one point of clarification, I believe, is that the field testing we are not participating in.
Correct.
So,
Can I ask a question?
yeah.
So we have no mechanism to get data, the district doesn't, on the tests that teachers can utilize? I mean, is that?
Just comes late.
It comes, we usually get it, we get a raw score, which isn't all that helpful. This year they said we'd have it in the spring. We don't get the scaled scores until generally August, September. It's late. The state assessments used to provide very good data. It provided item analysis. You could look at every student and see where they didn't do well, and you could look district-wide. Now, the state has last year released 50% of the questions, but not in a real easy-to-follow format. So this year they said they would hopefully release 60% of the questions. So you combine that with trying to get that information in late last year and this year again with the number of students who aren't taking the test, the data is difficult to use for instructional purposes. And because it comes so late, again, the teachers, those students have already moved to the next grade, so.
Can I also just ask a point of clarification? Oh, I'm off, sorry. Point of clarification, the district is mandated to administer those tests.
Correct. Right.
We have no option to not administer them.
Correct.
And if we didn't do it and took a stance, they would not give us the state aid.
Right.
The $20
Right.
million,
Yeah,
right?
we do not have an option. We have a fiduciary responsibility as a board and as a district to administer the state test, whether we like it or not. And there's a lot on the board. I don't want to speak for anybody, but we all don't like it, the test. But we have a fiduciary responsibility as a board to have the administration and the school district administer the test. We have no say in that, so. And we do advocate with our legislators and through our statewide association, school board association. We are
And
all
I've had several
very much.
conversations with the commissioner. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
we
change doesn't
strongly
occur
advocate.
overnight, unfortunately. Change takes time, so.
I guess my feeling, and I opted my kids out last year. I didn't do it this year. Last year I did because I felt like the political statement really needed to be made. I guess my frustration, both as a board member and as a parent, is I do feel, first of all, I feel like the testing issue is, it's really hard to decipher sort of the, as a parent and kind of a lay person. I'm not a teacher, and my teacher friends, are great, great educators on, the realities of, you're putting your kid, and believe me, my daughter's in 5th grade, and, she's taking tests this week. But it's incredibly frustrating to me, because I hear that, and then I saw the material that went out, and then I saw, rebuttals of the material, and I just feel like, as a parent, there's so much misinformation out there, and I do think there's more that can be done and maybe it's through our association, to, use the leverage that exists, which is, you know what, these are kids, we're putting them through a lot. I understand there's value in taking tests, and I'm not anti-test, but I am anti-information going into the black hole of, I want my teachers to be able to access that. So the purpose of the test, which is to evaluate what you know and then figure out how to institute a plan so that you can learn what you don't know. That piece seems like it's missing, and it is incredibly frustrating to kind of keep going around this little, this little gerbil wheel that I feel like we're on as parents. And I can't wait for the day that my kids aren't in those tests anymore, when they kind of graduate out of it, because it really is a big black cloud that floats over, 430 Delaware Ave when we start these tests. And for me as a parent, really frustrating to know that their teachers aren't then able to use that data, or the district, to put a plan in place so that, we're learning what we don't know.
And I do recall last year, I think it was August, Jody, we met with Assemblywoman Fahey and expressed our concerns to her about the lack of information that came back from the test results that we got.
Right, and I know the Superintendent's Council, and as well as NYSA and NYSBA, are all saying the same thing. I think what Lynn said is right. It's, the state is in these contracts, and it's going to take a while to change the assessments and getting the data back. It's just this, it's not going to be an overnight fix, for sure. And all the politics involved have made it that much more complicated.
Now, teachers I think the applications had to be in by today for ELA and math to work on the questions, and I hope we had some teachers.
We had some teachers
that applied to do that at State Ed. I know there was some question about whether they'd get time off, to be able to do that, but, I was hoping we'd have a few.
Right, we did.
Good.
All right, great. Anyone else want to address the board on an agenda item, or any item at this point anymore?
Hey, folks, this is Judy Abbott. First, I also share your relief that we're not just cutting this year. As someone that lives in a community that shouldered a very significant portion of your cuts, but temporarily closing Clarksville Elementary School until our enrollment numbers get back up to hopefully about 2,000. I'm hoping to hear us spinning the wheels to get my elementary school back for my community, because it was a neighborhood schools, as the board talks about, or the school district talks about on your website, are really important to the district, and that is ours. I also would like to express my gratitude to all the parents and community members who have written to all of our elected officials through the years, demanding restoration of our education aid and our getting rid of the stupid GEA. I also think these tests are stupid. I had a couple questions about some of the presentations for the tonight. First of all, well, one more comment. I feel like there's a less transparency going on with what information is available on the web. I used to be able to, a couple of years in a row, you had some line item, information out there from past years, and I don't know if I can't find it anymore. Maybe the website has gotten changed around. I used to be able to find, line by line. Well, at least one year I found line by line information on expenditures, and I think, and I'd like to see where your gaps are, and that was the slide that you guys were talking about tonight, and I kept looking for it. That's the kind of information I like to kind of see where we stand also. So I would like to see a little more information about the budget process. And this is not on your agenda, but the superintendent search, I thought there was supposed to be a report tonight on the superintendent search on your website, and I didn't see that on today's agenda.
That was an executive session. We did meet in executive session with the community stakeholders. They presented to us.
It didn't specify that was on the website for the superintendent search. It didn't specify that was going to be an executive
Oh,
session.
no.
Okay.
That did occur with the two different community stakeholder groups. Met with
okay.
us in executive session to discuss it. Yep.
All right, well, thanks for that clarification. With the IB on Tier 3, I think it might have been, that's International Baccalaureate, right, program?
Correct.
Isn't there a discussion about trying to create that program in Bethlehem? Or no?
We were investigating it, we were researching it for about a year and a half, and we had a presentation back in January. And the board at that time decided that not to move forward with it.
Okay.
That we would consider it perhaps for the future, but for a variety of reasons, it didn't seem like the funding that we would need was worth that investment at this time.
Okay.
But I do know there was some interest in one of the particular, adapting some of
the theory of knowledge
The theory of
class.
knowledge class to see if it could be implemented here in
Well,
some way.
we can't actually take that class
Right,
because
but
we have to
something like
put
it.
similar,
Right,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
just
it's
can't keep
copyrighted.
track of everything you guys do. And thank you, I just can't keep track of it all. And I was also wondering about the extra bus runs for elementary schools. On the transportation budget presentation, I was able to find the internet, it talked about one for each elementary school. I would really love it if Clarksville, which does have the longest bus routes, if you could reduce the duration of time our young children are on the buses. Maybe you can, put yourself in our shoes. Do you really want to see your kindergarten, first grade on the bus for an hour? I just would like to see, if you're talking about adding another bus route, if there's anything you can do to reduce the length of time our elementary, Town New Scotland elementary kids are on the bus. I would really appreciate it. I think that's important. And I also heard, I don't remember if it was Christine or someone talking about getting the booster club for track. I'm kind of new to the track world, to pay for an extra coach. I just want to make a comment. I think because it's, and I'm pretty new to the track world, but because it's a no-cut sport, a lot of the booster club money goes to support the transportation costs because it requires so many more buses.
No. We cover the transportation for buses.
Oh, I thought, okay.
But they do cover.
They have covered coaches in the past for us.
Right, they've
I
donated
know
money
there's,
for coaches.
what are there, like 100 kids running track in the high school level? And I know some kids in the middle school are coming up to it. I think there's only
They may do,
less
like, if
than
there's a special meet, like just like wrestling, if there's a certain extra meet.
They elect to go
Yes,
to.
yes, we paid for the bus down to
But
Staten Island.
that's across all sports.
Okay. Anyway, I do know that they could really use some extra coach or aides or something like that, because it's I love that it's a no-cut sport, I really do, and at the middle school level, there'd be great if there could be some kind of middle school community thing that isn't so competitive. There's a lot of competition, and not everybody joins all the clubs, and they want to get some exercise, and I think it's great to have all those other opportunities. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. Thank you for your comments.
Just
Yes,
a
Christine.
comment on what Judy said. I think we asked Cindy to get us some information on the bus routes.
Yes, and she got that to me, and I have it.
Okay.
So
If you could,
Okay.
yeah,
Made a
send that
note
out.
to make
Thank
sure
you.
I get that out.
I knew we asked for it.
Yes.
Yeah, for the length. Yeah.
Hi. Are you okay? Good? I think I broke this. My name's Liz Grisaro, and I'm a parent of a recent grad of this high school and a current 9th grader, and I appreciate your work and your dedication in staying here late and taking our comments. And I want to say, as gently as I can, that I'd like to add to your agenda. And what I'd like to add to your agenda is the issue of the high school start time.
I'm sorry, could you speak up a little?
Sure.
It's hard for me to
Sure.
hear.
It's not working? or I'm not close enough?
Nick, can you turn that volume up
Yeah.
on that one?
So my question has to do with the issue I'd like to bring up is the high school start time issue. We have a recently established chapter of the national organization Start School Later here in Bethlehem. We have a website. Everyone is very welcome to come and like it, or I hope you want to come and like it. We have a group of parents that has been doing research, and we also have a current high school student who did a really great presentation in the lab school on the school start time issue. And one of the things that the group would like to ask you to do is to put on your agenda as early as possible, presumably after you've dealt with this budget stuff, an opportunity for that student and some of our parents who've been researching the issue to come in and make some presentations. We'd like you to see her presentation, and we'd like to give you the benefit of some of the work that we've been doing in trying to understand not only the health reasons behind the issues that parents all around the country have been raising, but also some of the benefits that teachers and school systems have seen in changing school start times to a later hour. So we would like to ask you to put us on your agenda as early as possible so we can bring in our student and bring you some of those presentations and re-engage the conversation around this. We think it's not a question of whether it should be done, but how it should be done. And we think that you will likely agree that the next step, once we've had a chance to show you some of the information, will be to establish some kind of a task force with teachers and parents and students to come up with some options for how we might implement a later school start time or later high school start time in this district. But really the first step is we'd like to have a chance to come and speak to you. We'd like to bring this high school student who really did a terrific job and re-engage this discussion, because we think it's happening all over the country, it's happening all over our region. There was a statement put out just recently in March by 12 superintendents in 12 suburban Boston districts about moving all of those districts to later high school start times. So I think it's gathering speed. There are lots of good reasons to do it, and we'd like to see this board take that up in the near future.
Thank you for your comments. I will let you know that the board and the district did do a presentation, or we had a discussion on an earlier start time and some of the concerns and whatnot with that already. So I would encourage you maybe to reach out to the superintendent, have a conversation and see if there's some additional information that, again, I don't know if we'd get it onto this year's agenda with our meetings, but maybe for next year.
I'm hopeful you can get us on this year. I mean, we have a student we'd like you to see. We think you would benefit from hearing from her. We understand that there was some initial discussion undertaken about a year and a half ago. We think that wasn't enough. We think there's more that can be done. We think we need to identify and grapple with the issues and establish some kind of a stakeholder process to develop options, get teachers, as I said, teachers, parents, students, everybody involved in outlining the options. We think there are several options, and we'd like the district to partner with us to start to outline those and get community feedback, because we think it's that important, and we're not satisfied with the examination that was done earlier.
Again, thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, Shannon Herrick. So line item, agenda item. The raising of the allowance for substitute teachers, you mentioned it at a previous meeting, and I've been thinking about it, and it came up again tonight. And I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. I mean, I'm all for raising the minimum wage too, and I know that they were something like $13 an hour. But I hear from my kids, and a lot of times they'll have a substitute teacher who sits there and reads their novel that they bring with them while the kids do busy work. So I'm not saying not to include it or not to do it, but it would be nice to hear what the expectations are of the district of substitute teachers, what the accountability is. How do you know that they're going to do anything? Excuse me, I always get nervous when I talk up here. Is there any accountability to see that they are doing something? And just why is there such a huge need now? Is there like more teachers taking more days or something like that? And I don't want to, that's like a whole other issue, and I know it's a personnel issue, and I don't want to get into that. But if something more could be said about that, maybe in a memo on the website or at the next meeting, to just kind of evaluate why that need is there and how how we would be spending, because that was a huge item. I think it was like $98,000. So just more information about that would be good.
Can you just answer that
I
real quick? 'Cause there
I
is
can
a-
quickly respond to that. In the capital region, we participate in the BOCE subservice, and there's actually 200 less people on that sub list now. There's a huge teacher shortage across not just New York State, but the country. So obviously, with a teacher shortage, there's actually a teacher sub shortage. So that's one issue, is just the availability of subs. In regards to the expectations, they're expected to implement the lesson plans that the teacher leaves. If they don't, we do have a process for that to get to the building principal, and we have a process to no longer have those individuals as our substitutes. So there is an expectation that they do what's left for them.
Okay, thank you. The other thing was to address the track at the middle school. And I look at it more as not just another sport for another BC student to do. I look at it as, at the middle school especially, there's not necessarily enough for these kids to do at the school, to represent their school, to be a part of something that kind of just brings them all together. It would be organized, it would be professional, it would give them pride, it would give them a sense of accomplishment, and it's not necessarily just, I think the focus shouldn't necessarily be on how to mitigate the huge number of track athletes at the high school. I think it's a standalone item. And there were a lot of parents at the middle school that were looking to say, maybe we should start a petition to even get this ball rolling. So I was really pleased to hear that the ball already rolled without us. And it's, it is a recommended line item from the athletic director. So when you're thinking about that, and I know, Christine, you had mentioned it too, and also you had mentioned how, I think the thing has gotten skewed where it's been presented to mitigate the numbers, and it's two different things. I think helping this high school deal with the number of kids that want to run track is one issue, and the need for this program at the middle school is another issue. And that's it for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else want to address the board on an agenda item? Okay.
Can I ask a question? Maybe we can ask Len for clarification on that, but Len presented that as having a positive effect on the numbers.
I spoke to him immediately after the meeting, and it was his impression, and you can check on this, that it really was going to be a 7 and 8 program.
No, I know it was, but he did make a point of presenting it not just as an ad for the middle school.
Because it is extended to ninth grade.
Right,
So
right.
if we wanted to, technically, if we really wanted to, we could make it 7, 8, 9. I don't think the rest
Right.
of the schools are going to do that.
Right. But, and I assume, he presented it that way because he did so in having some informed reasoning behind it. So we can speculate all we want, but, it quite possibly could have that net effect. And I agree with Shannon. I do think the middle school doesn't have as many opportunities, so there is a bonus on that level as well, excuse me. But maybe we could ask him for just something to be emailed around on what his, where that analysis came from and what, he's thinking related to that.
And maybe more that the real competitive ninth grader wouldn't opt for this.
Right,
but would
right.
stay
No,
with
I
the
understand
high
that.
school track, yeah.
But that's not everybody, I would
No.
assume.
Well, we had an athlete who said, I would never have done it, and a ninth grader is not going to go around with middle school kids.
I think that's
That's true.
the
He
bigger-
came up and said it, and I've had kids run track for years. A ninth grade kid is looking up to the older kids to run at the high school level, whether he or she is a competitive athlete time-wise or not. They're not going to bust down to the middle school and run with the 7th and 8th graders.
No, I
Do
just.
the 8th graders run with the 9th graders? Can they move up?
Yeah,
if
they qualify.
So that may be,
Yeah, that's
where
the-
Len's
Yeah,
thinking
no,
that
that's-
those
there aren't
8th
that many
graders
of them.
aren't going to come up to the high school team,
Yeah.
that they're going to stay down, and
Yeah,
that will
no,
help
I'm
with
just
numbers.
I just thought Len
Yeah.
brought it, he presented it like
Yeah,
that.
sure.
And my assumption is he did so because he has some data behind it or analysis.
I like it, it should go in anyways.
All right, we'll move on to the next item, finance. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following finance action items A through G.
So moved.
That's the first. Do I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
Just thank you for all the donations.
Yeah, we And we say this every board meeting because we do have so many donations from the various organizations and boosters and PTOs and PTAs, and we have a very supportive community here for the Bethlehem School District, so thank you to all of them. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That item carries. Item number 9, professional personnel. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following professional action items A through I.
So moved.
That's a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That item carries. Item number 10, support personnel. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following support staff action items A through C.
So moved.
That's a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? That item carries. Other action items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following action items A through C.
So moved. Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That item carries. Now the board has an opportunity to recognize anyone that would like to address us on a non-agenda item. No? Okay, great. Future meetings, then we will not, let me just get this clarified. Are we going to need to meet on the 13th, not for, I believe we determined not for the budget adoption, or yes or no?
Not for the budget.
Not for budget, not for budget. No, okay. What I would ask, though, then, in preparation of the budget, and I think we've already done this, the administration and superintendent, is we would like to see if you reassess your priorities to get that ahead of time as much as possible. And then at the meeting, we would like the ability to do that up and down where we fall within each of those additions where we might.
Yeah, or maybe
where we
the
might meet
tiers,
in
where the gap is with the tiers, you know?
Yeah, well, I think we want beyond the tiers. I think I've heard from people that
Yeah.
we
For
want,
each
some might
individual
want 3, some of 3, and not all of 3. And
Okay.
so I
Right.
think we need to have it at an
Chinese
individual
menu.
level where we drop them off. And then again, the associated Mattel that would fall into that, so. And then,
There is an audit committee.
So our next meeting would be
okay,
the
there's an audit committee meeting on the 14th, I believe, okay?
Right, we're doing
Um,
interviews, yeah.
But will that be a public, or that's just executive, because you guys are doing
We're
a
interviewing
interviewing of
firms, so
we've
that would be
issued an
next.
RFP. It's been 5 years since the current CPA firm, and so now we go out and invite anyone else to bid along with the current firm. But that would be an executive session only, and wouldn't be open to the public.
And I'm not going to be able to attend that meeting.
No, I
Right,
think Christine is
Christine's
going to
offered to come in place.
attend
if
it.
you-
Okay.
Whoever, I'm not.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a work commitment and I can't get back in time.
And then on the 13th, do we as a board need to meet to have any discussions about the superintendent search? No? Yeah.
I think we can
thought we
have
said
questions,
yes.
and I
What?
think we can.
I'm trying to figure out the best way to formulate questions for the next round.
I think we could do it by email. I mean,
I do
I don't
too.
think we
Yeah.
need to meet
Okay.
to.
And then we have the
Okay.
19th for a few minutes before the
Okay.
meeting, right?
So we're suggesting can we meet at 5:30 on the 19th?
Sure, it's fine.
That's fine with me. That's a Tuesday night.
That's Tuesday.
Again, yeah.
So from 5:30 to 6, we do the search.
Okay. All right, good.
And
Okay,
should
so
we, but
future
should we
meetings is,
share questions ahead by email?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah, because we'll be doing it
Yep.
the following night, so
right, we will.
we need to do that.
Okay, so we have, the next board meeting will be Tuesday night, April.
I know, it looks like January.
I know. April 19th, here at the high school. We'll start with 5:30, the board in executive session, and then administration.
Can we meet in the media center? It's a little warmer in there.
Yeah, well, do you think we'll need to have this
Probably
space
not.
for? Probably not. All right, then we'll go back to the media center for our open meeting at 7 o'clock.
everybody has pneumonia.
And then, again, remind everybody that our budget vote is on May 19th? May 19th. On the ballot will be our budget, will be a bus proposition. We have 2 seats that are open. If anyone is interested in running for either of those 2 seats, you need to pick up a petition, and it has to be returned by April 18th? 18th, here at the, so see Brittany, the district clerk. And we encourage anyone and everyone to run for a seat. Like I said, there are 2 open seats up. They are 3-year terms. If anyone has any questions about it, feel free to contact any of the current board members. We can discuss with you what's involved and any questions you may have about that. And then there'll also be the library budget, and do they have 2 trustee seats or 1? 1 trustee seats for the public library. All of it being held here at the high school on May 19th.
17.
Oh, 17th, sorry.
And
Misspoke.
then Matt,
May
just so
17th.
people know too, that my seat is up and I am not running
Right.
again.
Oh, yeah,
So
yep.
we definitely need people to put petitions in.
Right,
and-
there, Diane and Mike's seats are up. Mike is running again, but Diane is not running. Do we have no need to go back into exec session?
I move to adjourn.
Okay. That's the first. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.